Hello and greetings to my Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 friends. Today I'm going to show you how to build your own personal points of interest. Now it's impossible for me to know what you know. I'm going to go over it step by step and I'm not going to skip any steps. This won't take very long, but it should be everything you need to know to build your own points of interest. The first thing we need to do is have a temporary location for our scenery files. I happen to have a folder that I use. I'll move it over here and show you. In this folder here, it's called MSFS Scenery, and I keep all of the projects I'm working on. Now I'll go ahead and add that I always save all completed packages. I have a completed packages folder, and in this folder it's got everything that I've ever built, and I've built a lot of packages. That's your choice, and we'll talk about that later, but once I'm done building a package, moved it into my community folder, and then I will go ahead and archive the package in this folder here. But that's completely up to you. Now we'll continue on. I'll move that off. And of course, the first thing we'll do is go into developers mode, options, general options, developers. Mine happens to be off, so we'll turn it on. Apply and save, and then you can go back to home. And now we're going to go to a location where we want to put our personal points of interest. I happen to live in the Nashville area. I'm going to add a couple of points of interest in downtown Nashville. You can do this wherever you want in the world, wherever you live, but that's how I'm going to do it for this tutorial. Going to set my departure here at KBNA, the Nashville International Airport. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You can just put your plane over the location where you want to build your points of interest. But if you do so, I do recommend you go up into options and pause the simulator so your plane just won't fly away and crash. I'm just going to use the camera and zip over there real quick because it's not very far from here. I'm going to set the time of day for midday, and I'm going to have it on clear skies. And now I'll load in. Now the sim is loaded up at KBNA, Nashville Airport. And I'm going to do what you'd normally do and ready to fly. Okay, we're good. And the very first thing we want to do, I'm going to go up and go to camera and hit developer camera. Now the developer camera moves exactly like your drone camera with a couple little differences. W will move you forward, S will move you back, A will move you left, and D will move you right. You can also hit R to rise and F to fall. There's another thing that you can do, and this is what I typically do. You hold your left Alt key down and you hold your left mouse button down and you move and just pivot any way you want to pivot. Just like the drone camera, you can also use your 4 key and 6 key to pivot the camera around. There's 4, now I hit 6. You might accidentally hit the 5 key. I've done this 1,000s of times. If you do it, it could bring you right back to the plane. Like that. So when that happens, you have no choice but to move again. And also one other thing, your 7 key and 9 key will tilt the camera. Every now and again when I'm building a package, I will get the camera tilted. Don't know how I do that, but I do it somehow. And you can use the 7 or the 8 key to bring the camera back in. I'll give you an example of both. That's a 7. That's the 8. So relatively level now. So now I'm going to zip over to Nissan Stadium, and that's where we'll start. Something else you can do, I don't think you can do this with the drone camera. I actually use your mouse wheel to move in and out, and I do that quite a lot when I'm using a developer camera. I'll show you. There's Nissan Stadium. Another thing I was doing as I was moving over here is something you'll learn if you use a developer camera a lot. I was using two keys. I was using my W to go forward, and I believe I had my A key down, and that allowed me to kind of move at an angle. But that's just something that you get used to doing. I have muscle memory from doing this so much. So here we are, and now we're going to build our package. So what we want to do at this point is we want to go up to developer menu up here, and we want to hit tools. We want the project editor, and now it's open. And at this point in time we want to hit project, new project. Now here is what I was explaining earlier. This right now is currently pointing to my MSFS Scenery folder, which is on my D drive. And that's something you'll need to decide up front. Where do you want your package to go as you work on it? And this is the one I always use. And of course you can hit this button right here and move just through your directory until you find the location that you want. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to leave it this way. You need to know, yes, up front, what are you going to use? You could just paste the path in here if you want to, or you can click this button and follow the path. So I'm going to give this project a name, and I'm going to call it Nashville POI. And then I'm going to hit create new project. Once that happens, I'm going to select custom because I'm not building an effect and I'm not building an airport, so this is going to be custom. Under the content, it's not going to be aircraft, instruments. In this particular case, it's not going to be scenery, although I do build scenery and I have a tutorial on building scenery. I'm going to leave this at miscellaneous. And the display title, this is the way it will appear in your content manager. So I'll give it the full name as I would normally do if I was building a package. I'm going to call this Nashville Points of Interest. It will show up in my community folder that way. The package name, this is arbitrary. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go ahead and use the same naming convention I would normally use. So I have NEP Studio, which is the name I go by on my projects. Nashville POI, and it will automatically put the hyphens in. When you hit the space key, it will put the hyphens in automatically. So I'm going to hit next, and it's asking me here what I want to call the BGL. Again, like I said, all this is arbitrary, so I'm just going to call it one word, Nashville POI. And I want to hit create. Now you notice my inspector has filled out here, and it does have the name Nashville Points of Interest, and it has my creator name, and that's because I have it set up in the default. NEP Studio is the name I use, and so naturally it's going to default and put NEP Studio in the creator. And I normally use an image. It's up to you, but I do like to put my image in there. Keep in mind, it says it right here, if you use an image, it has to be precisely 412 by 170 pixels. This is mandatory, but I already have a picture set up and I'm going to insert it right now. So there's my picture. This is vital. Don't want you to skip this step. build the package. It's the next thing we have to do. It is going to give you this dialog box, and you want to hit yes. And you now notice a console has popped up showing that the package is built. And I mentioned this in my earlier tutorials. There will be errors that show up and warnings. This has nothing to do with what you're doing if you follow the steps as I laid them out. This is simply built into the SDK, and I don't know why. It's always been that way as long as I've been building packages, so I don't worry about it, and the packages work. So at this point in time, we'll hit the window key, and we will get rid of the console. And one other thing, I apologize, I forgot to mention, I always pause the simulator, so at this point I'm going to pause it. That's to keep time from passing away. Also, you have this option here on your Windows key where you can hit teleport window. If you do that, you pull up the teleport window, then you can actually pull up the coordinates to where you want the location to be. This is if it's too far away from the airport, and you don't want to really have your plane flying up in the air making noise, because it does kind of get old after a while if you're building a big package. You could actually put in your lat long in here, hit go to location, you'll go right where you want to go. So that is also an option, and I forgot to tell you that. I apologize. At this point, now that I've built my package, everything is in here, I'm going to click on this, and you'll see my BGL file that I told you about, Nashville POI. Click on this and load in editor. Now it'll take it a little bit of time for your scenery to load in. If your material editor comes up, mine happens to come up on my other monitor, you're not going to need that for this process, so just exit out of it. And now we'll wait for all the scenery to load in. While we're waiting, I failed to mention that your objects window should come up and your scenery editor should come up. If for some reason these do not come up, then you can go to your tools menu and click scenery editor, and if you want the objects to come up, you can hit that from view objects. The gizmo always comes up for me. A gizmo is also from this particular menu here, gizmo. I keep it up because I do use the gizmo for other projects, and I'm just used to it hanging out there. So if you do later on build scenery where you need to scale it or spin it or change the size of it, then you would want the gizmo up. Okay, the scenery has loaded in. I normally click all, even though it's not going to be necessary for this project, but that's just something I'm used to doing. At this point, we want to go up to our menu here on our objects window, and we want to go down here and find landmark locations. We want to hit that, and now we want to hit the add button. And if you see, my little thing came here, and you'll see an error. We're not going to worry about the error. We're going to take care of that. I'm going to bring up the properties window as it pops up over here, and it's showing an error because it wants me to give it a name. So I'll do that right now. Nissan Stadium. Now the error went away, as you can tell, and Nissan Stadium shows up right here as a landmark POI. So I can close this out. And while I'm here, it's real easy. I'll just run over here and add another one. This is the Country Music Hall of Fame. So I want to add a point of interest there. So again, hit the add button. You'll see the error. Move it right over the Hall of Fame. Let me position my camera. Looks like it's right over it. So, and now I'm going to bring up my properties, and I'm going to call this Country Music Hall of Fame. Alright, that's in there, and you see the name is here, so I can shut this out. Now we want to save the scenery because we're basically done right now. So I'm going to hit save scenery. So we hit save, and here is my Nashville POI folder pops up. You want to click on that folder, and you want to go to package sources, and you want to keep clicking till you come to a blank screen. So I had to hit that, had to hit scenery, Nashville, okay. I'm down to the bottom folder. Then I can name this file. I'll keep it real simple, one word, Nashville POIs. You want to save. At this point we've added our POI, so we want to click here again and bring up the inspector window, and we want to build the package again. I believe I saved it. I'm going to double check. Yeah. Build package. Okay, the package is built that quickly, and we want to close the console, and we want to close the scenery editor, close the project editor. At this time I'm going to move the package into my community folder. I'll show you how to do that, but we have to restart the simulator for it to actually work. So here's my file in which I saved it, Nashville POIs, and I have my community folder right here handy. Already had it open, so I can just bring it over. So I want to click on my file, and I want to see packages. There they are. NEP Studio Nashville POIs. So we want to copy that, leave it in there, don't move it. I'd copy it normally. Or my community folder, I'm going to paste it in. Now it is in my community folder, so I'm going to close the community folder, go back up with this, and at this point in time this is where I would move it over my completed packages. For an example, I may decide later, well, I'd like to add some more points of interest to this file. So you can always come back, redo your work, and build a new package and replace the package in your community folder with a new one, and you'll have the added points of interest. That is complete. I'm not going to move this one because this is just for tutorial to show you folks. So I'm going to exit out of this folder, exit out of the sim, and restart, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, welcome back. What I've done now is I restarted the sim. So we built our package. We moved the package into our community folder. Here it is right here, Nashville POI. So we have everything we need. We can get out of developer mode. You can do it by just hitting it here. Most time people will just go to Home, Options, General, Developer, Off, Apply and Save, and back to Home. And now let's go to KBNA. There it is. Let the scenery load in. And if I scroll out, you'll see here Country Music Hall of Fame, and there's Nissan Stadium. So now I have added my own personal points of interest. It is that simple to do. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. If you did enjoy it, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. All that stuff feeds the algorithm and helps build the channel, and I hope to be able to help more people. Thanks for watching. I hope you got something useful from this.